Hello, friends. I'm DJ Lance Rock, and I have to say, Rock and Roll Grad School is awesome!
This is Rock and Roll Grad School with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling. They seem to have an invisible touch, yeah.
Hello, kitties. We are going to have a good year together. You like that?
I do.
Yeah, it just came to me while I was talking.
Came right out.
Just
like you'd planned it.
Exactly. We are talking with Peter Martin, jazz musician, who has a new record, which he openly admits is a gimmick, but it's a fun gimmick.
Right. Yeah, it's a good gimmick. It's not like shady. It's not.
No.
He's not starting some sort of cult or anything.
No. When he starts passing out the robes, then maybe we're like,
yeah,
this
but
is
we
a
might
little
join because well, that's true. I mean, hopefully the robes fit.
Yeah, so we have that, and then we've got a lot of what?
We sound terrible. We had a very interesting conversation with him, and you especially had a great conversation with him because you have a lot of jazz knowledge, a lot of interest in the
Suzuki method. Sure, yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's a great opportunity to hear what a virtuoso Luke was as a child.
Yes, which everyone is clamoring for.
I know. I mean, I don't know. I was terrible.
Yeah.
I couldn't play anything I was supposed to play, but I could rock it out of the things I wanted to play.
This completely tracks.
It does. Flute and piano.
Yeah. Gluten piano?
Flute and piano.
Okay. So I was thinking there's obviously new year, new us.
Yes, same us.
Same us, unfortunately. I was thinking of shows I am looking forward to going to see in the year.
Yes.
And it's to give us a chance to discuss some upcoming tours, perhaps do something, have a little bit of a musical conversation here.
What? Okay.
Well, I just thought,
we're gonna actually talk about music. Music show.
Might as well give it a shot, see how it goes.
Why not?
So the only thing I have tickets for is a thing I had a ticket for last year and that did not happen.
Okay.
Which is Springsteen at
yes.
Bank Park. But you have tickets.
I have a few tickets.
But let's talk about the big tickets.
Oh, well, my big tickets are to the Sphere.
Yes.
Unless they've changed it, which happens, the last show of U2's run.
Oh, it is the last show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very nice. Mm-hmm.
Yes, unless they've added more, because that's,
Right.
Because I think my Bono ones last year were the first ones of that run, but then he added some at the front, so that's okay.
But I think they need to be out to prep for Fish.
Because
playing in April,
right?
And I just read something over the weekend that said they're doing completely different visuals for all four shows.
They would have to.
Yes. I mean, I feel like just the video I have seen, and I have gone on a deep dive of what's been posted on Instagram and the TikToks and such, because I will not be there. Ergo, I'm okay with spoiling everything.
I appreciate that.
And it looks, U2 has set a bar. Let's put it that. There is a bar, they have set it. And it seems like it's pretty high to try to get over.
I mean, I would think. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
And they should. I'm hoping our friend Larry Mullen makes an appearance.
Thank you for listening, Larry. Big fan.
Yes.
That would be great. It
feels like it can happen, but I don't want to get
again.
Like for years, everyone in Detroit, every concert you went to, you would think either Kid Rock would show up or Bob Seger would show up. I don't think either of them ever showed up at any shows I went to.
I went on a run for a while where I could not go to a show and not have Peter Wolf from Jay Giles Band show up.
I mean, that's kind of awesome.
MC5, Springsteen, just everywhere. It was like, oh, there's Peter Wolf again.
Yeah. And those
Uh,
two do show up at a ton of shows, first of all. They
Well,
just
sure.
never showed up at the shows
The
I
ones
was
you
at.
were at, right.
Mhm.
So what else do you have tickets for that you're
I have
excited
Echo and
about?
the Bunning Men,
Oh, that's right.
which will
Yes,
be good.
that'll be
I
fun.
should have shortly Journey and Def Leppard. Obviously, I just saw Def
Oh.
Leppard, God, now almost 2 years ago, but I have never seen Journey, and I'm very
Mm,
excited to see Asian Stephen Perry
right.
because I
With
feel
Open
terrible. I
Arms?
can't forget his name. With Open Arms,
It,
faithfully.
is Cheap Trick playing on that
No,
date?
not at our date.
Yeah. I'm just wondering.
Very sad. But I feel
Yeah.
they'll be back around. They like to come here. Or,
I
well,
think
we're going to go to Rockford this year.
this is true. And it is their 50th anniversary. So like our
Right.
friend Robin Taylor Zander said, there will be a lot of
Which I bet
touring
we
and
could like
celebration.
check in with him in the near future and get some scoop.
Fun. Yeah. Um, yeah, the big thing here seems to be Ween is playing the big outdoor venue, the summer
Oh,
venue,
yes.
to celebrate the 35th anniversary, or is it 25th? I believe 25th, if you want to feel old, of Chocolate and Cheese.
Nice.
Yeah. So not sure if I want to go to that. I have not seen them perform.
I don't know.
If you're going to see them, I feel like you want to see them in their hometown,
Yeah, true.
which is why I keep telling the elder he should put in a request that his band play Cover It With Gas and Set It on Fire.
Nice.
Yes.
That would be perfect.
Mhm. So
The one
yes,
I
yeah.
want to see,
Mhm.
and with I truly do want to go, but only for the opening act, which I think we talked about,
Mhm.
is although I do appreciate the name of the tour, I think it's the Losers Tour.
Mhm.
I think it's Limp Bizkit and Creed and a couple other people, but the opener in Detroit,
Mhm.
Corey Feldman. I want to get really good pavilion tickets and see Corey Feldman, and then I will give those tickets to fans of the other bands. It will be my way of, my first, I don't know, charitable contribution of the year.
Right. Supporting Corey Feldman or helping that Fred Durst
No.
fan who just has poor luck in getting seats?
Helping the Fred Durst. No, I am going to see Corey with all my love and gusto.
Right. Okay. I'm trying to think of a Limp Bizkit reference here, and I just cannot
Yeah,
come
I
up with
don't
a good
really
Greg
have
stuff,
any, so
Nookie, yeah,
no.
and then I'm out.
Yeah, that's all I got. Although I am a little curious about these different like personas he's taking on. Not Corey, Fred
Right,
Durst.
Fred Durst, yeah.
But I don't need to see those from the pavilion or anywhere near a lot
True.
of people. I can see those from the very back of the hill on my way
Yeah.
out.
Right. I haven't really cared for his other personas,
No,
and
I
so I
haven't
don't know if I'm
either.
interested in meeting the new ones.
That's
I mean,
how I
go
feel.
go with God, you do you, live your
Yes.
truth. Not my scene. This project, it is a normal album release, but it's not a normal album release. And do you consider this a live album? Because maybe we should explain what you did.
Yeah.
Because
Start at the very beginning.
yes, exactly. That's a great
I was a
place to
little
start.
boy,
Yes,
the
Right.
apple of my mother's eye.
So how did this project come to be?
Okay, so
But keep it brief.
Yeah.
Like,
So
yeah,
the genesis of it was really meeting Sarah Hanahan in 2019, who's the featured well, everybody's featured on the album. It's a quartet project and very much a combination of talents and an emphasis on everybody's contribution to it. But I got a chance to meet Sarah's. So the band Generation S that I put together, I thought of it because I met Sarah. So the personnel is easy because there's one female and three guys, and the three guys are old in this band and the gal is young. So it's really easy to keep track of all of us. But Sarah's like 25, 26 years old. And then Ruben Rogers on bass, Greg Hutchinson on drums, and myself. We're all kind of Gen Xers, like early 50s, and we've been played together a lot over the years with different people. They played on my albums, I played on their records. We've been on like Diane Reeves records, and we've toured a lot. But I heard Sarah Hanahan in 2019 as part of a program at the Kennedy Center called Jazz Ahead that was started by Betty Carter, and it's like a pre-professional program for young players that are like in their early 20s. It's like a super rigorous audition to get in because the program's free, but it gives them a lot. They do a concert at the Kennedy Center. It's kind of a big deal for them. And I was teaching that year because they always have teachers that had some connection with Betty Carter. And Betty Carter was a legendary jazz vocalist that I got a chance to play with when I was 20 years old. And so the idea is to pass along. She was an incredible mentor. She wasn't just a great singer and, hit maker and all this, but she mentored several generations of up and coming jazz players from the bandstand and off the bandstand, kind of old school style. Some of her techniques for mentorship we weren't allowed to do due to current standards of the world, but it was just a great connection. And so I love being part of this program. But I heard all these great, there's like 25, 30 young players, and they're like graduates of Juilliard and Berkeley and all the, or about to graduate. And Sarah was one of them. And there was something about her playing. I was like, wow, I usually play trio, but I want to put together a band featuring her. And so I kind of had a vision just based on the way that she played and putting her together with Greg and Ruben and myself. And with a little bit of ulterior motive also, like I didn't want us playing together to get stale. We played together so much. It was like, I wanted to bring a new element. But it sounded like she spoke our language, even though we're a different generation. It sounded like I could hear it in her music. And so I wasn't sure. You never know until you get in the studio. But that was, to answer your question, really the impetus for this new band. And it just took a few years. I mean, there was like life events and the pandemic and different things, but I always kept it in the back of my mind. And at the beginning of 2023, this year, are we still in this year?
Yeah, a few more days.
Yeah. With the last interview I did, they were like, this is going to come out in 2024. And so we can't say anything about it. You got to act like it's 2024.
I don't know what day it is normally. Yeah.
We're
So,
fine.
I have enough trouble acting like it's whatever it is,
Right.
right.
But
I'm stuck on celebrating like it's 1999.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which makes me, I remember when that song came out and like I'm in high school and I'm like, could you imagine
that's
the year
so far away.
1999 and now we're in 2024.
I wish it was late December 1963.
There you go.
We can just do this all day.
But
Yeah.
so in some ways, would you say this project came from almost the selfishness of hearing someone play and being like, I want to make music with that person. I want to hear my stuff go along with what they've got. And that kind of like, this would be fun, basically. And it sounds like that was the like
total selfishness.
Yeah.
You nailed it. No, it really, I mean, as I'm getting older and just more experienced and playing music for a long time, I lean into like what is going to be fun and invigorating and sound good to me.
Right.
And then I can serve, hopefully. You never know, but you hope. But it's like I look at being a musician very much of like being in the service industry. So like if you're a waiter, you can say that you do a lot of things. I elevate humanity. No, you bring the food to people that are hungry. And so I feel like we bring the music to people that need to hear it. They may not know why they need to hear it. They may know why, who knows? But they need uplifting or something, entertainment or whatever. And so I always feel like, how can I serve music that is exciting and exhilarating to myself and the band so that it will be exciting and exhilarating to the listener? Because we're listeners too, like as we're playing. So I think that selfish element is actually super important to greatness in music, hopefully, and connecting with the audience.
So did the magic hit immediately when you guys were finally together, or was there a learning curve with her coming in? And
yeah, I mean, it was kind of immediate. It was kind of scary because, for Greg and Ruben and myself, because we played so much together, I knew that there wasn't a lot of risk there. So we know, but for Sarah, I was like, I didn't quite realize until we really got in there. I was like, this is putting a lot on her. But there was just something like the way she plays is so I always look at musicians, like not as much in terms of their age. Because it's so much intergenerational things that happen in jazz and always have and can be successful, which is why I love this music. So there was the way that she played. She had such a swagger back then. I was like, well, that was 4 years ago. So I'm like, she's even better. And I'd seen her on YouTube and stuff, but I hadn't played with her at all. And neither had Greg or Ruben. So that was sort of the biggest risk, but I had a lot of confidence in her, and she overperformed even beyond what I thought she could do. And she contributed a lot, and it was great.
That's awesome. I love that she just walked in there and was like, I can do this. They're all super experienced and been together forever. And
Yeah,
take it
she
up.
almost did too much. She was almost like she would play like long solo. At one point, Greg was like, hey, back up. You're good. But, it was like, it was shocked. Yeah, she doesn't lack in confidence, but I mean,
love it.
It's fun, like, because she just speaks the same language. I mean, it's not just jazz, of course, but jazz is such a big thing. It's like, Louis Armstrong and Kenny G. Are they really the same jazz?
Right. It has a lot of dialects.
That's a lot of dialects. Exactly. When I heard her, I was like, there's something about the way she plays. I think she does it the way we do it. And so, and she does other things and we do other things. And like, so there's a good push and pull too. And I don't want to overstate, like, it was no like her against us. Like, she was very integrated in, and there was a lot of really cool things that like her and Greg on drum, like that they connected with. It was very much I love the quartet format because there's so many different conversations that, I mean, trio's great, but quartet is really great. And I wrote the music specifically for that format and for these musicians, and I wanted to take advantage of all that it had to offer.
And so the thing that makes this interesting and unique is that you recorded it live and you broadcast it all live online.
Yeah.
So I guess that it begs the question, like, just go to Birdland and record that night. Like, why? What was the reason to like do it this way and go through this process? Is it? I mean, I'm assuming.
Luke, why didn't you tell me this before? We could have. I didn't even.
I've been sitting here
skipped over a lot of
long. I have been sitting here.
Yeah,
but like, was it like we like the way the four of us communicate with each other, and we want to go out on that high wire and just put it all out there, or what was the reason? I mean,
sadistic love.
Okay, that's
of possible pain.
Best kind.
Yeah. Well, so to be honest, it was a little bit of a gimmick, really. Like, and I was thinking about that. I was like, how can we present the music that'll have an interesting story to it? But then I was like, I don't want it to just be that. I just want that to be part of it. So I started thinking, what's something that's a gimmick, but that could actually inform the creation of the music, the kind of the way I envision it, and maybe even make it better, or at least would have the chance for that. And so I've been involved with like some live I've been on like 2 or 3 live at the Village Vanguard records over the years, going back to the 90s. And so like and Greg and Ruben have, and even Sarah has done that some. So like, we know how to do a live recording, and there's so many benefits to that. There's the energy of the audience. There's that one take, like, this is what it is. There's that interaction and immediacy and sort of the serendipitous possibility of like the magic of the room and all that. So I definitely wanted to try to capitalize on that, because that's always difficult in the studio when you try to create that as a jazz musician. Like, you could go out on tour, and I've done this before with a group for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You got a great rapport, you're tightly knit, you know what can happen, you're improvised, the solos, you're dialed in. And then you get in the studio, and it's like you got the headphones on and you're in separate rooms, and it's kind of antiseptic, and you're trying to make everything perfect, much more so than you would do at the club or at the concert hall. And so you end up getting a little bit of a generic, you can get a little bit of a generic sounding record. It can still be great, but you have to work a little harder to get that excitement. So I was like, how can we leverage the fact that the core of the group has played together a lot? So there's not a learning curve in terms of like, we don't need to go out and tour. We've done all that for years. Like, we know we can complete each other's sentences. But that's why I loved bringing in a new element too. I was like, I don't want us to rely on that and just, it's like a conversation where you're completing each other's sentences is kind of boring, So that was kind of Sarah and what she brought in, not just for what she's actually playing, but for what that created with the dynamics of everybody's interaction, it being fresh. But then I was like, if we just do a regular studio record, sometimes you fall into this trap of like mini takes when you don't need to do them. So like, I've done records before, my own included, where you do the first take and the vibe is there, the energy is there, the excitement is there, but it's not perfect, at least not to the players or to the producer. Often the engineer, the producer in the control room, and we finish and we're like, oh, that was great. And they're like, oh, that was good. Let's try one more though. Cause we can do better. And then you're kind of like, really? We thought we were good. So then you get inside your head and you're like, well, let me try to recreate the part that was good and fix the part that wasn't. And so what happens is as you go to later takes, certain things get more perfect or more refined, but the original, it's very hard to get back to that original sort of vibe that you had because, you know, it's like a first impression. You can't go back and I mean, you can, but it's harder. And so I was like, you know what? We're pros. We've done this before. We've done records where we did a bunch of takes, but they ended up using the first takes anyway. They're better upon further reflection. So I was like, why don't we optimize for that? Why don't we set up a situation where it's all first takes? So the only way to do that is to not do anything but first takes, you know? So that was the idea behind that. And then we didn't do it live because I still wanted to leverage like the sound of the studio and the video of the studio. So I wanted to do a studio record, but kind of combine some of the elements of the live experience. So the live streaming of it, just to put a hat on a hat on a hat, we put too many hats on maybe, but I just sort of added that in because we had the capabilities here at my studio to do that. And I was like, well, if we're doing one take, I know, and we make it part of the story of how this was created, some people are going to be like, how do we know you really did it in one take? So I was like, we'll just live stream it and you can see it on YouTube as we do it, which will make it even more exciting, hopefully, and even put more pressure on us. But that's kind of how it came about. And I'm really happy with like, I mean, I think back to like, would I have done it differently? I don't think so. I mean, we might've got lucky. It could have been a disaster, but I'm like, we're not doing a live heart surgery online where we're, you know what I mean? Where if it goes bad, it really goes bad. Worst case, we just do another take and we change the story. But everything you hear on there is one take, and you can see it, of course, on the live stream anyway. And so I'm super happy. Like, could we have gone and made certain little parts more perfect had we edited this or added that? Probably. But would it have been noticeable to anybody but us? I don't think so. So, and would we have lost some of that energy that was really what I was about capturing? So that's how it happened.
That's really cool. Yeah, jazz can't be perfect. It can't be too polished. That's no fun.
Right.
Well, and you do a lot in addition to help other artists get going. And obviously being able to watch that would help from a learning perspective too. And then everything you're doing with Open Studio and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of like just it sort of happened gradually. So I didn't just wake up one day and say like, oh, I'm going to have 3 different jobs, you know, in addition to being a father, hopefully, you know, and husband. But I mean, it just sort of happened gradually. So it's like you know, like when, you know, I lived in Louisiana for a long time, when we do the crawfish boil, the crawfish, full disclosure, I'm actually a vegan now for like 3 years. So I don't eat any of this stuff. And this sounds disgusting, but we used to make the crawfish, they have to be alive and you put them in. And if you slowly turn up the heat, they don't realize, you know, I'm dead. But that's sort of what happened with this sort of entrepreneur and creating a company, being CEO and, you know, having a team of like, we have 12 people, we're out to hire a couple, like that all sort of just happened somewhat gradually. And then during the pandemic kind of accelerated, but then I was touring for most of it until the pandemic too. So I always had this, you know, I was a musician. I mean, that's what I've done all my life. So it's been fun. And at my age to kind of get involved to some different areas and to help a bunch of artists, especially during the pandemic, it was great because a lot of jazz musicians lost all their income. And of course we did. And so I was able to keep that going for a bunch of folks and keep people connected with the music, the members, the students and the teachers.
So
how has that changed your playing, your approach to music? Has it, when you kind of you're forcing yourself to see behind the curtain in many ways?
Yeah. I don't know that it's changed my playing a lot. I mean, it probably has, but
well, you only had one studio day on this last record, I heard.
What's that?
You only had one studio day on the last record.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, that's actually how it's changed. Like I have access to the resources because we built out the studio for the business, for the video lessons and stuff. And we kind of, you know, this project of Generation S is not like a smart necessarily part of the business plan because it's losing us money on a certain, you know, from the actual numerical numbers. But this was more about creating something that the community would be proud of, that we would all connect on. So I thought it would be a nice thing for the brand because I wanted to be, I'm known as a teacher, but I used to be, and I'm still known as a player too. I wanted to connect those things and show people this is all one thing. And we kind of call it edutainment, not just us. A lot of people call it that. There's a really great space where people love jazz and they maybe play some, but they mainly just want to hear it and be connected with it. It's kind of like, you know, if you have a great bottle of wine that you love, like you don't have to know what kind of grape it is or where it comes from, but like maybe you learn that it's a red wine. Well, you can look at it and see that, but maybe you learn it's from Italy. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's from Tuscany. Oh, ooh la la, you know, or maybe it's from this, like you could go travel there and then meet the, like, how deep do you want to go? Yeah, it's still great wine, but some people want to go deep. And so that's kind of what we provide with Open Studio, in terms of people that want to go deep in all the way to the point of like some of our best students are like, they all consider themselves amateurs, but some of them are like definitely at the pro skill level. Like they could do gigs. They're better than some pro players that I know. So, but we have like rank beginners as well. And a lot in between, a lot at the intermediate level, a lot of just adult amateurs, you know, from over 130 countries now. So it's like a very like community driven, it's become that. We started out as just like one way, watch the videos, learn at your own pace. And it's been a kind of nuanced shift over to a community thing where we're gathering around. I mean, just like you go to the winery, they're not going to tell you, oh, wine is great. Like you're already sold on the wine. That's why you're there. You know, you're all in on the wine. Wine is good. But then you want to learn more about it. You want to appreciate it. You want to learn about the process. And so that's what our service is with Open Studio.
And so is it bringing people in, teaching them an instrument, teaching them the, you know, rules of the form, for lack of a better term?
Yeah,
or
it's
is it putting on in a silent way and going, here's the things in here that, as someone who knows more about this is what I appreciate, and I want to share this appreciation and maybe make it so you can hear other records and catch these little things that make it that much more fulfilling for you as someone appreciating talent.
Yeah, that's a big part of what we do. We have a listening session. We call it the listening sesh because we're cool.
Yeah, sure.
Of course.
We're too cool to say the whole word, but we do that weekly for members, where we do exactly like we'll put on a record and just kind of listen to it together, talk about different elements of it. But yeah, usually going like the listening session, we don't go full on nerd like chords. I mean, we sometimes do a little bit, but that's more like in the other classes. We've got a lot of different variations.
Right. If someone's coming in cold, you don't want to start throwing various Mixolydian and all of that at somebody. And I appreciate this. Yeah.
But we've got all that too. And it's very much like, you know, the things that I did right. I could do a whole podcast episode on the things I did wrong. I could do 10 of those, but I can do one on the things I did right. But one of them is like, I was always listening to what the customer wanted, because I had no idea. So I didn't know what else to do. So at the beginning, I made some videos just to sort of test out, because I used to teach at Northwestern University up in Chicago in the music school there. This is like 12 years ago, 14 years ago. And I was like, they had hired me basically to teach their jazz piano majors within that program. And I would go up like 2 times a month from St. Louis just for the day and teach them all day. And it was like a real like old school, sitting there one at a time. I mean, sometimes I'd have them all together as a class, but it was very much like one-on-one tutoring, mentoring. And I would show them all this stuff and try to help them as much as I could. And like at the end of the day, I'd fly up in the morning, it was a long day. I'd get back and there'd be like emails from them. Professor Martin, what was it that you said about this course? Like, and I was like, why weren't you listening? What, so I was getting frustrated with the one-on-one. It's, it's hard. But I would answer the emails, but then I started making videos, and this was before pre-iPhone. I have an iPhone. I don't know if you guys have seen these before, but
I've heard,
yeah,
they're taking off.
I'm very advanced here. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
I
going
don't
to be
scare
big
you guys. I don't want to scare you. Before that, they used to have these things called a flip cam with like potato quality video. But I started making these videos just to answer their questions, because I was like, it's easier to show you than for me to tell you. So I'd play like some scale finger, and they were just little short videos, and I'd send them a link, which was a big deal then, because like there was no YouTube yet. It was like, where do you put the link? I'd have to upload it, be waiting around. But anyway, that was the beginning of Open Studio, it turns out, making those little videos, because shortly after that, who would become a good friend of mine, Dan Martin, no relation, had the idea of like to put that on Apple Podcasts, which at the time were like video podcasts, because they had the video iPod, and Apple was like, podcasts are going to be video. That was, I don't know if you remember this. This was like audio. No, everyone wants video podcasts. That changed. But So we just kind of uploaded it up there on a whim. And because Apple had like almost no content at that time, the next day we were featured on like the iTunes homepage for the podcast as like the #1 music instructional video podcast, of which there were no others basically. So we got like all these downloads, which we didn't even know for a few weeks because the statistics, we didn't know where to get. I mean, we didn't know what was going on. It was like the Wild West. But that was sort of the beginning. And I got all these people from around the world that were like following me. Oh my God, I love your videos. And I was like, what are you talking about? Where did you see those? So that was the start of it. And then YouTube, and Dan was like, there's this new site called YouTube. I'm like, that'll never last. That's stupid. But we uploaded there. And so like, it just kind of snowballed from there. And then we started making other videos, but that's when I first started seeing like, you could reach people in that sort of one-way format of like, this is something I know about. Let me show you behind the scenes how to do it. This one little nugget of information. Here you go. And so that's the part I did right, because I just gave it away. I wasn't looking at monetizing or anything. It was just free. Give it away, because the Apple podcast is always free. Right. Then when we started the original site, it was like, I just sort of asked people, what do you guys want me to talk about? Like I had an email list. I was like, I'm thinking about starting this thing. Like, what would be interesting to you? So that was the foundation of Open Studio. So I was always, because I had no idea what to do. And so I was lazy, to tell you the truth. I was like, tell me what to do. And that's really what we built. And it's gotten much more nuanced now. And I've got this great team, but we're still very much like in the service to the members mode.
And for yourself, did you have somebody who was this mentor who was able to show you those chords and those, whatever it is, to kind of say like, here is this? And how much have you seen that like kind of echoed in your teaching when you're passing this down? You're like, oh, I remember this person telling me this thing, and now that kind of tradition of musician to musician continues.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that, but then I never say it. I'm always like, I came up with this myself. Let me show this to you.
Yes.
No one else knows
the only way to do it.
Suck it, monk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, I had amazing teachers, starting with my parents, who are both musicians. Hello, personal privilege alert. It's like, I came up in a house of music, full of music. Both my parents are classical musicians, and my mother is a Suzuki violin teacher. So she's teaching, I started on violin, teaching young kids. And so I came up around that. And then I had great piano teachers growing up in St. Louis. And then, Betty Carter, who I think I mentioned at the beginning with the program, I got a chance to play with her. Like, very, very lucky that I got that gig, because we were playing I got the gig. I rehearsed with her at her house in Brooklyn for 2 days. And then the next day we went on a 7-week tour of Europe. Like, I'd never been. It was just like crazy. Like, and I'm playing, these huge festivals and stuff, on the job training, and a lot of great things from her. And then just other, like Wynton Marsalis was a big influence. And I met him when I was like 14 years old through my dad, because my dad played in the symphony in St. Louis. Wynton came to St. Louis and played when he was still doing classical music. And my dad was talking to me. He's like, oh, my son and some of his friends have this little jazz group. And Wynton's like, man, bring them down tomorrow. I want to meet them. And so I met him, and he gave me a lot of great advice, gave me his phone number, and connected me with a lot of other young. Wynton was like, at that time, was like the jazz internet of the like, he connected me with Christopher McBride and Roy Hargrove, like, because there was no internet. It was like, you'd hear about different people in other cities, but you had no access. So Wynton was like, through his phone number, like, which you had to catch him when he was home in New York, because there was no cell phone. It was like, he had an answering machine. Oh, this is Peter calling. Tell me about this record or whatever. It was amazing what he did. And, I'm still good friends with him to this day, and very much in his debt for not only the stuff I learned directly from him, but the connections that he made. And when I went up to New York to go to school, like the place I was supposed to live, the dorm fell through, and he let me stay at his house. I mean, it was super generous and wonderful.
And so in many ways, this is just the next kind of link in this chain of passing along your knowledge to the next generation or multiple generations, and making sure the music gets out there and it stays alive, and that excitement and love of this continues and is permeated through your neighborhood and the kind of that virtual neighborhood.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's like, I've always just felt this. I'm not an especially magnanimous or giving person. I'm actually quite a selfish person, but on instinct, it's fun to share what's been shared with me, and to be part of, because I'm part of that lineage of jazz players. I feel a responsibility and real joy though too because also like with jazz, like for some reason, it is a little bit controversial, but I think we're, as jazz musicians in general, a little bit too secretive with the information. There's a little bit still like I've actually gotten some pushback since I've started Open Studio from some really great artists, some of which are really good friends of mine.
Let's name them.
Yeah, well, I can tell you some of them are my artists now in Open Studio, which is funny. But like a little bit of pushback about like, are we giving away too much? Like, are we making it too easy for people? Because we'll talk amongst ourselves and I'll be like, man, if I'd had these tools, like we have a platform where you can watch a lesson or anything, like any of our video content, you can pause it and then you can slow it down and we've got the sheet music there and you can see all the notes. Like we used to have to transcribe. I remember dropping the needle on the album and it would be out of tune and then, oh, wait, I got to go back 10 seconds. Oh, it's a minute. Hell, it was so hard to do everything. I'm like, are we making it too easy to people? Are they not? So a lot of my artists in the jazz community, it's like, we're not giving the young folks enough grit to have to like come after it. But my answer to that is, who cares? No, it's not that. It's like, we're not primarily serving young players like we were coming up when they're 13, 14, 15, like those top players that are going to go on and be pros. It's like it's like for me, when I go to the basketball court at the gym, like I'm not looking to get in the NBA. I know it seems like you might be thinking I am.
That's one easily fooled, yes.
But I mean, I'm also like, I'm using the same size ball that LeBron James uses. I'm using the same hoop 10 feet up and I'm just doing it much worse. But I do want to be a little bit connected. I want to, like, if I can watch LeBron James or see like a video of him talking about how he does what he does, I know I'm not going to be able to do it like that, but it's fun to connect with the art form or connect with the thing.
For sure.
And so that's what most of our people are. So we're not necessarily, I don't think, I mean, there may be, I mean, there's definitely young people looking at our stuff. And as a society, we're probably making things too easy for all young people. So we're just part of that. As I tell my kids, I walked uphill to school both ways. They never did that. They were chauffeured in a fancy electric car. But I mean, it is what it is. And I think I'm hoping the net result of what we're doing is additive to people's life for their connection with this great art form.
Peter Martin's new quartet Generation S is available right now wherever you get your records. For more information, you can check out Peter's website, which is petermartinmusic.com. And to learn more about Open Studio, check out that website, openstudiojazz.com.
Rock and Roll Grad School is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts because your impassioned review is just as honest as us standing backstage waiting to come back on for the encore. For more information, you can check out our website, rockandrollgradschool.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hagquist and myself from our world headquarters located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing executive producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Good night, drive safe, and may all your favorite bands stay together.